If you're building a consumer product brand and dream of seeing your product on retail shelves, today's episode is for you. One of the biggest mistakes founders make is believing that landing retail is the finish line. The truth is, building a successful retail brand really starts long before your product even reaches a store shelf. In today's conversation, you'll learn how Hannah Perez, co founder of SEEQ, validated a completely new product category, used authentic social media to sell out of her first inventory in just 45 days, and eventually expanded into major retailers, including Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, and the Vitamin Shoppe. We'll also talk about what founders often overlook when preparing for retail, the biggest differences between selling direct to consumers and selling in stores, and why building the right team is essential as you grow your business. If you're ready to build a brand that wins in retail, let's get started. Hello, hello, and welcome back to Shelf Talks, the podcast where we dive deep into the journeys of female founders bringing their product-based businesses to retail shelves. I'm your host, Roberta, and today I'm excited to be joined by Hannah Perez, co-founder of SEEQ, a brand that's really redefining what high-protein nutrition can look like for today's consumers. SEEQ has quickly gained attention by bringing innovation, flavor, and really a fresh perspective to the protein category, proving that even established categories have room for disruption when you truly understand the customer. Welcome to Shelf Talks, Hannah.
Amazing. Thanks, Roberta. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited for you to be here as well. And of course, to listen to the journey of you building SEEQ. So let's start from the beginning. Before this was even an idea for you, what did life look like?
I love talking about everything that leads up to an entrepreneur's journey because mine is very similar, I think, to a lot of people who are hungry to build something. And for me, sometimes you don't realize things until someone really points it out to you. Because when I look back at my life, I have had a track record of starting a business or, trying to make some money on the side, flipping shoes or buying things from a garage sale and reselling them for a higher price. And I was originally going to school for elementary education and I was doing all this stuff kind of behind the scenes and was very passionate about entrepreneurship. And it took a conversation with a friend to really just give me the clarity that I needed. And he said, "You don't stop talking about wanting to build a business. Why don't you go to school to do that?" And I was like, "That's so true." And at that point, I completely shifted my whole focus to be around wanting to build a business. And so I majored in marketing and went to school and minored in entrepreneurship and innovation. So I was really crafting my degree to support my future entrepreneurial journey. And during that phase of my life, I was getting my feet wet into everything. And I think that's a huge piece of advice that I have to anyone in college or the person that's just trying to figure it out is just start doing things. Even if it doesn't necessarily make sense to you at the time, you'll probably learn something and you'll probably get closer to where you're actually trying to go by just saying yes to more opportunities. So I did just that. I said yes to a bunch of opportunities. I did this pitch competition that my college offers to run a business and connects you with different people in the community who have their own business. So I was surrounded by people who already were doing that and had shown success in their life. And I am the type of person that holds the mentality of why not me? And so many people have done this. So why can't I? Why can't that same, passion and journey and all of that come together for me to form my own thing? And that was really where all of my focus was. So if Roberta, you came to me when I was like 19, 20 years old and you're like, I want to start a macaroni business. I'm like, let's do it. Let's, let's do just that. Um, and yeah, that passion never left me. And that's ultimately what led me to this journey to where I'm at today.
When you say you started off with a major in elementary education, that seems very safe compared to what you're saying in regards to I can do anything. Was that because although you had the curiosity for entrepreneurship, that you still were looking to have that safe life?
Yeah, I have a family made up of teachers. So my older sister, she's 8 years older than me. She's assistant principal right now, and I've always looked up to her. There's tons of people in my family who are also in education. And so it was definitely like a safe play of just, okay, everyone else is doing this, so maybe I should too. And just the fact that people want you to have it figured out at 18 to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life, quote unquote. It's just a crazy concept because I'm like, we're still figuring it out. You know what I mean? And it was not really a decision that I cared about as much as it made sense because everyone around me was doing it. It wasn't like a passion. It wasn't this burning, thing inside of me. It just was like, well, I thought people chose business majors when they just didn't know what they wanted to do in life.
Mhm.
And it took me a long time to actually figure that out. So it really was because I've never been afraid of really anything, of jumping and trying new things or doing something that nobody else is doing. But I just didn't really have any other answer. So I was like, well, I'm just going to go with the cop out of elementary education because everyone else around me is doing it.
Once you switched and really had focus on what you wanted to do, and you did that pitch competition, was the pitch competition Seek? Like, is that what you pitched?
No, it wasn't actually. At that time, it was veggie burger business because I wanted to start a healthy fast food company. And I was like, okay, well, what's the number one item on a fast food menu is a burger. And I'm like, what's a healthy version of a burger? So I tried, me and my roommate, roommate and best friend, convinced her to basically start this business with me and go down this whole rabbit hole of what that could look like. And yeah, we ended up doing the pitch competition, which was just good experience overall. And I think that's why I say, like, just say yes to every opportunity because the experience in really a lot of businesses can be applied to the next thing that you want to start. And so, no, Seek didn't come about until after I'd graduated college and had basically been full time at a creative agency and was kind of on the inner workings at that point of starting my own thing because I knew that agency was going to be going basically where we were all going to be going in separate directions. So I was like, all the clients that I'm working with are going to need services. So I was kind of in this bubbled up area of entrepreneurship when Ben, my co-founder, we met at this agency about a year prior. He came back and had these samples of this product, and he was at a point in his career where he had just graduated. It's mid-COVID 2020. No jobs are on the market for engineers, and he was like, I'm going to go all in on creating a business then. So he was in this early phase of just validation for the product. And I was in the phase of, again, you come to me with an idea and we will start this thing. And so it was a lot of like perfect timing with things. You know, the question of like how much of this was luck versus skill. And it's like so much of it was combined into each other. Like COVID ultimately was the reason why Seek started. And if COVID didn't happen, Ben would have a full-time engineering career. Who knows where I would be if I would still be running my marketing agency or not. And at that point, I also had this passion for fitness. I used to work at a supplement store. There was a lot of just alignment with this business versus in past businesses. Like I'm not a vegetarian, for example. So the veggie burger business, I would have lost passion for it right away. Or I started a diaper bag drop shipping company that I ended up buying inventory for and was storing it in my second bedroom and all of this stuff where eventually it wasn't in alignment for me that I probably would have lost passion. So the fact that I'd never heard of this product was deep in supplements and fitness and just like I cared deeply and I was a customer of it myself. It just made so much sense for us to go all in on it at that time. And the white space in the market at the point at which we launched was a lot clearer of competitors when it came to clear protein, where now there's dozens of competitors with clear protein, and that whole landscape has shifted and also validated our assumptions from the very beginning. But yeah, Seek was born post grad.
I love that. So it was really like not just you seeking the passion for your entrepreneurship, but a deep connection to who you really are, with the exercise and the health side that you were already on, quickly connected to what this is.
Exactly. I think
Yeah.
that's really important for people as they start a business to be really thinking about what it is that lights you up every day and how can you align whatever you're in pursuit of, how can you align that with what you actually deeply value and care about?
So once you connected with your co-founder and found that alignment to start something, you were talking a little bit about validation. What did that look like in making sure that this was something that was going to be valid in the marketplace?
It really looked like just getting it in people's hands, people around us, and getting feedback on the products. Having a product that is something you consume, it's a lot easier, I think, to find validation because you can quickly see if people like it or don't like it.
Hmm.
And I'd say at the beginning, even to this day, it has nuances to how it mixes and all of the different things that clear protein kind of brings up when you interact with it. And so consumers having it for the first time gave us a lot of clarity of where we need to innovate as we continue to move forward in this. But taste is king overall. And it was really clear to us as soon as we got it in people's hands and they got to try it, how it just clicked with everyone like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is protein. This tastes nothing like a chalky, thick shake that I've been used to my whole life. That is something typically people are forcing down just to get in, their protein.
Yeah.
And there's just better ways to hit your health and wellness goals that don't need to create friction in your life. So it really was just getting it in people's hands. I'd say the bigger place of validation was just being taken seriously at that point. Post grad, we're 22 years old and we're reaching out to manufacturers with our, .edu
Right.
emails. And it's like, who is going to take these people seriously, right? And so that was the bigger, I'd say, shoes that we were stepping into of just being taken seriously as we continue to grow this thing. And then validation has proven itself out over time. Like even when we were first, in our first couple years of the business, talking to other people in the industry, they saw clear protein as a trend and it might not be here forever. And we just believed so strongly that no, this is a cultural shift that's going to happen with protein. And the same way seltzers shifted how people consume alcohol. And we have that bigger opportunity to create that space to prove it out. And now that we've done so and we have created enough awareness to basically show competitors this is a viable product and people want it. Now, again, you see dozens of different competitors when you type in clear protein. When we started, it was basically us, Isopure, and My Protein out in the UK. And now it's a whole wide ocean of people playing in this space.
Amazing that you guys had that foresight because you're right. Back in 2000, there was really very little talk about clear protein. And now it really has major competition in that space. So you talked a little bit about manufacturing and having it hard to get those manufacturers to actually take you serious. What was that pivotal point in which somebody said yes and how you were kind of connecting to manufacturers? Was there a change that really flipped the switch on getting some acceptance there?
It honestly just was persistence of this is what we're trying to build. Will you give us samples to try to build this business? And basically treating it as though we have been in the business. Like we're not asking you to cut us any favors or to do us anything. Like we want to know your MOQs, we want to know your pricing, we want to know the lead times, like all of the same things that you still want to know, even if you're 30 years into the business. And I think just being able to talk the talk was really important in that early phase of just getting those early samples because manufacturers at the end of the day, they want to grow businesses and help businesses by getting their product in their hands and so on and so forth. It's a give and take relationship. And we were very lucky at the very beginning because actually, it was kind of hindsight. We ended up spending a year on trying to find a different manufacturer because the number one, partner that we wanted to partner with was like, you need to get 4,000 units. It's going to be this much, like close to a six-figure investment. And we're like, well, we do not have that. We spent so long trying to find manufacturers that could do it for cheaper, could do it for less quantity, all the different things. And ultimately going back to what I was mentioning earlier about how important if you have a consumable taste is, it was like such a night and day difference of every other person that we were trying, every other manufacturer's product that we were trying compared to the first one that we had went to. And we were like, we need to go with this one and we need to just take the risk on. And we basically presented the business case to Ben's parents, my co-founder's parents, and they ended up taking all their money out of stocks, investing it
Wow.
into that first round of inventory. So like truly without that initial belief from them, who knows where SEEQ would have gotten started or if we would have at all. And getting people, anybody, whether it's friends, family, to sink their teeth into the business a little bit and see the vision and trust that we're going to make it happen was just so meaningful for us at that time. And still to this day, goosebumps every time I share this story because it's amazing to see the support that we really did have. And that's not how it works for a lot of people sometimes.
Also, I think just true validation that what you were doing and what you guys both had a vision for was something that you were born to pursue. Because to your point, is not typical. And a lot of people get stalled there when they're growing their business.
Totally.
So now you have a manufacturer, you're able to hit those MOQs and fund that original order. How did you start to sell the product? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, this is always the fun story that I think most people, if they've been a part of our journey, remember the early days of us building. And it really came down to what the playbook still is today, which is social media. And we went all in on showing the behind the scenes, building in public, trying to capture people's reactions to the product as they would try it for the first time and share videos that felt authentic and real, and started to build trust and authority in that space through specifically building from a face versus the brand itself. So we really leaned into my co-founder Ben and used his TikTok page to build basically the whole personality and presence of SEEQ at the very beginning. So basically we went all in on Ben's TikTok and started to see virality in the first week of us launching after he had spent countless hours developing like 40 plus videos and not seeing a lot of traction before we even launched. And the first videos that really took off for us was going out on the street, sampling our product, capturing those raw reactions. And in week one of launching, we were like, oh my gosh, we're seeing names of people that we don't recognize and seeing a dozen orders. And we're like, oh my gosh, this is insane. And we kept continuing to rinse and repeat the same type of content. And then Ben started to create another concept alongside of that, which was around the road to Shark Tank and building this journey of trying to get on Shark Tank, which also then caught a lot of attention, including Jake Cuban, which is Mark Cuban's son. And at this point, when we saw that order come through from Jake Cuban, we were maybe like 80% sold out. And we're like, I think this is Mark Cuban's son.
My God.
We were like freaking out, and we were tracking when things were going to be delivered to just try to get his attention to like comment or say anything about the product. And at that point, Ben is like trying to write a script and stuff. And that day, we knew the product was going to be delivered. Literally, as he's middle writing the script, Mark Cuban tags us in a video on his TikTok. And at that point, I mean, like, if you are like anybody, you know that this is a huge deal of just
Right.
like I've always wanted to go on Shark Tank. I've always like just the dream of all of that was so like palpable of like, wow, the shark himself is trying our product, rating it a 10 out of 10 and telling us that we need to be on Shark Tank. And we're like, oh my God. So did we apply for Shark Tank? And at that point, the rest of the inventory ended up selling out. And so in 45 days, we had sold out of the 4,000 units. And we looked at each other and we're like, okay, like this could really be a household brand. This could be $100 million brand. This is going to be revolutionary, and we are going to be the face of this category. And like all of these things really started to feel a lot more real. And at that point, we were going to be out of stock for potentially a few months because we had no idea when we would place that second order of inventory. It was not on our radar at all. And it really just changed the course of our business because we got to just mature a little bit and like getting all of these signals of demand and what consumers want and grounding that out into, okay, what is our business plan now for the rest of this year? And like, how are we actually going to take this and like really start to build out what is being the face of Clear Protein look like? What does $100 million brand look like, 5 to 7 years down the line? And I think it was really important for us to have that space and not be in stock during those couple months to allow us to really actualize a lot of the assumptions that we were making.
How did you keep customers still connected during that time of not having inventory?
We captured emails and stuff as people purchased in the first round, and we opened up pre-orders for that second round of inventory that was going to be coming like about a month into being out of stock. But otherwise, it was just social and being very persistent on TikTok to give people updates and share more about what we're working on and just the inner workings of starting a business, really, and being just ultra transparent about where we're at with things. And at that time, people gave us a lot of grace because they saw us as the underdogs trying to start a business, and everybody in our community was so supportive. And ultimately, we were able to still retain all of the demand because of those pre-orders. So we had sold out of that second round of inventory before it even showed up. And so we were already in the third round of inventory shortly after. And yeah, we ended up being out of stock in that first year because we just continued to cycle all of the money that we were getting back from the business into the next PO. So we ended up being out of stock for like probably 6 months out of our first year in business. And it was really hard to manage ultimately just all the different pain points that come with that, with, consumers caring about when their next order is going to come. Like, especially with our product, it's not only a consumable, but it's a consumable that people want to build a routine around
Yeah.
and a habit around. So having something that they can really count on and trust and know that it's going to be there for them after their workout or in their day to day, wherever they're, supplementing their protein is also really important. So it was a lot to navigate.
How long did it take for you to actually get in a cycle in which you felt confident in being able to deliver without having those out of stock issues?
Honestly, I mean, because post-COVID, supply chain was very unpredictable, and I'd say, all of 2021 and a lot of early 2022. But at that point, we had enough inventory of at least certain flavors. So if we didn't have one flavor in stock, we had other flavors in stock. And so being able to manage that has definitely shifted over time, and also bringing in the right people to manage that with us and making sure as a founder you let go of the things that you maybe aren't good at or skilled at, to allow for someone that has the experience to come in and help forecast, help with inventory planning and what that really looks like. And so we had brought in a fractional operator to come in and basically run like part-time supply chain basically. And having somebody who could manage that was so crucial to us having more stability in demand planning and making sure that we weren't out of stock. So it was a roller coaster for the first 18 months or so, and then it started to level out. But even still, as we, open up new wholesale doors and being in retail, that is the number one priority. So in certain channels on TikTok Shop, we may be out of stock on certain flavors because we are prioritizing fulfilling orders for Target and Sam's Club and Walmart and Vitamin Shoppe. And that is very important to us to maintain, but know that we are everywhere. So if you can't find us on TikTok Shop, you can find us on Amazon. If you can't find us on Amazon for a flavor, you can find us on Shopify. You can find us in store. So at this point, we're in a much, much healthier position where I'm not concerned about being out of stock for months on end like we
Yeah.
were at the beginning.
Yeah. So you started talking about retail, and it sounds like at the very beginning it was directly D2C. Had you thought of retail when you were initially building the business, or was that an afterthought that came later?
We were definitely thinking about it, but we weren't planning for it at that point. And I bring this up, and I've made a couple posts about it, and it's something that I'm still so deeply passionate about. Is we used the EOS model at the very beginning, which is basically a accountability tracker to building your business. And you break it down from like a 10-year kind of like blue sky, sitting with all these crazy ideas. And then you break it down into something that's more actualized in a 3-year vision. And in that 3-year vision, we were planning this out in December when we were out of stock in our second month of business. And we had put on paper in our 3-year get into Target nationwide. So that would have brought us to December of 2024. And if anyone listening has worked with Target, they typically have one true window of launching new businesses and then a reset window that you have another kind of window to get into to Target, which is typically April and October. And so December 2024 is like unrealistic and just the way that they actually
Their
work with
cadence, right?
businesses.
Right.
And it was so funny because I looked back, this was a year ago. I looked back at what we had put down on that 3-year plan, and it was getting to Target nationwide, and we were in December of 2024, and I was like, no shit, we are literally launching in December of 2024. And
Really?
we ended up launching December 29th, 2024, because they wanted to focus and have us featured not in line, where you would find typically like in the aisle of supplements, but they wanted to focus on protein and wellness at the beginning of the year in January. So they saw that as an opportunity for us to get in earlier. And it's just crazy how some of that stuff works out. Like, I'm big into manifesting and, visualizing and all the different things from a spiritual lens.
Yeah.
So to see that actually come to fruition how it did was really special. But even when we were, thinking about retail, we were thinking about it at the beginning of 2024. We were putting together our plan, and our plan did not include retail at that point. We're like, next year will be our retail year, talking about 2025, to really pursue it and to
Yeah.
get into these doors. And we received a cold email from a broker, and they basically mentioned that Target was going to be launching this innovation summit where brands would get to pitch Target for like 10, 15 minutes, kind of like Shark Tank style. And our brand came up in some data points, and they're like, we want to represent you. Are you in? And this was like a week after we presented the whole game plan to the team of like what this year is going to
That didn't
involve.
include retail.
It did not include that. And we're like, duh, because we started this business in Minnesota too. So like Target's our backyard retailer. And that's why it was on our, like, that was our plan of like, we really want to go into Target. Like that would be a dream. So when we got this email, we all looked at each other and we're like, obviously we are going to do this. This is
Right.
amazing. And we did. And that is ultimately why we launched into retail at the timing that we did.
Wow. So just having it not even on your kind of foresight to even pitch to any retailer, how did you even prepare for that? Like, what did that look like in preparation for that 10-minute pitch to a retailer that wasn't even in your plans for that year?
Yeah, no, seriously, it was crazy. And thankfully, brokers, they want you to win too. And they've been through some things like this. So we had a really good team that we still are working with today on what we need to prepare to present to Target. And the biggest thing for me and Ben is always thinking from a unique lens of how we are going to present the brand ourselves. And we call it the SEEQ spin. And not just sitting at a conference table. Like, do not have me sit down to present this. Like, sitting down, like, I'm not going to have the same passion about this brand. Like, you need to see, like, I need to present this thing standing up. So that was like one thing going into this where I'm like, we have all the right information in here. Like, I designed the deck, made it all look pretty and stuff for what we're building here.
Right.
Make it interesting, and then obviously have like a good experience trying the different flavors and stuff and being unique in that lens, but more just like the energy that you bring to these meetings. That is what a lot of people, anyone that's making a decision to work with your brand cares more about, is that energy and the passion that you bring. And so for me, I was like, we got to do this thing standing up and we got to add some fun to it. We got to add some lightness to something that like isn't what other people are doing. And it also made it great because I accidentally spilled all of the samples as soon as I set them down for them to try. Literally right at the beginning of the meeting, I'm like, oh, amazing. Which also just like really humanized the experience too. It's like, we're all just freaking human. And like, we don't need to be so serious all the time. And that's actually like our whole brand ethos is wellness should not feel intimidating. It shouldn't feel like a chore. It should feel fun. It should feel joyous. And that's why our packaging is so vibrant and bright. And that's ultimately the energy that we want to bring to these different meetings too.
When you got that yes, what were first steps in making sure that you had the right inventory and assortment needs and just planning from a launch perspective? What were the things that you were doing in between that yes versus actually being on shelf?
So we ended up having to launch which is not unique necessarily, but launching a net new format of our product. So on our website, we offer a 22 serving, and in retail, they wanted 15 servings. They wanted it at a certain price point. So that was really the first bit of time, is just getting the operations down of, okay, this is the new tub that we're putting it in. This is the cost. This is like all the different kind of nitty gritty details of just the actual product and getting that put together. That was the main thing at the very beginning. And then it was really a lot of just, how are we marketing this thing in retail? And like, how are we telling people that we're here, and making sure we have like a big blast of Target content, because retailers care very deeply about you talking about them through every touch point you have with your community. And so it was really important for us to create this really hype up moment, which we have for all of our flavor drops in the past, and dedicating that to Target. So it was a lot of just getting the right product put together. And then it's refinements over time. Like, we learned so much just in the first week, and we have learned a lot in the last, call it, year and a half or so of being in Target and in retail in general. The consumer behavior and psychology of buying a product in store versus online is so different. So now
Mhm.
we're almost going back to that original conversation around, what is the offering that really makes sense? What's the design look like? What are the things that we're missing right now that the consumer's not able to maybe attach onto like they are with other products on shelf. And it's a lot of analyzing what's on shelf and what's working and going in store and seeing it all, for your very own eyes and seeing how you shop too. Like you really put yourself in a whole new position as a consumer when you start to go in retail versus online and digital marketing. It's just a completely different landscape.
What were some things that you found were different from consumers that were shopping D2C versus in retail?
In D2C, you have so much more ability to explain yourself to a consumer, educate them. With our product specifically, there is a lack of awareness of clear protein, and you'll say clear protein to someone and they still won't necessarily understand what that means. So, educating through digital marketing is so much easier for people to quickly understand what this is. You can show someone trying it and having a review and reaction with it versus in retail, you only have about 2 seconds to connect with your consumer, and if your front of pack does not communicate what they need to understand about your product to feel like they can trust and purchase you, it's gonna be a uphill battle. So, that's really the changes that we're looking to make as we think ahead to this fall in 2027 on what are the key components that our packaging isn't portraying, and, how can we start to really lean in there. So, it's interesting because the early stuff that you work on as you go into retail is still the same stuff that you're working on when you're in retail. It's just you have a lot more education
Mhm.
around what's working and not working, and hopefully you've surrounded yourself around the right resources and people who have either done it before or know what they're doing to ask specific questions. But yeah, D2C, it's like you can market so much clearer to people and you're able to target the people that have the intent to purchase your product versus you don't have control or have awareness even of who is shopping other than the store data that you're getting as far as like, okay, Target, 80% of their consumers is women 35 to 45 years old. Okay. That is different than maybe the D2C playbook. So it's a lot of new data to just take in and understand and figure out where your brand fits into that puzzle.
What have you found has been the most successful marketing plays that have driven the awareness of the brand coupled with traffic into retail stores?
Yeah, that's something that we're still absolutely unlocking as we speak. But ultimately, it's getting people to know about your brand. Like, brand awareness is so key, and when I say brand awareness, I don't mean like a sexy commercial, right? Like, I mean, like, how are you getting people to talk about your brand to other people? Like, how are you actually spreading word of mouth awareness? And can you do that through creators and partners online? Because at the end of the day, our community, we can tap as many times as we want, but we need to grow outside of that as well. And we also need to understand, like I was saying, with the data of who the consumer is shopping at Target. Are there people then that we can partner with that fit that consumer profile that likely have those people that are also fitting that same consumer profile that we
Yeah.
can then double down into? So right now, it's a lot of testing with different creators and partners and trying to find our right stack of people that we can continue to develop relationships with and really go deep because I really don't believe that you can get that far if you're building everything off of just transactions and paying, a few $100 for one single video and then moving on from that person.
Mhm.
These days, it's like the saying I think used to be you need 7 touch points to actually remember the brand. I think it's today you probably need more like 20 touch points because there are so many different inputs that we receive every day as consumers. We're all victim to it. And you need to make sure that you're partnering with the right people and really going deep in relationship because that energy of if this is just transactional versus does this person really actually believe in this brand, you can tell very quickly just by a simple video. If I see a one creator promoting a product, I'm like, I know the energy if they're like really down with that brand or if they're just doing it because the brand paid them some
Yeah.
money.
That's so true. That's so true. I think, at the onset of TikTok, it was more believable, but now you're right. You can tell immediately if it's actually a connection there or if it's really them just, getting a check and kind of checking off their list of brands that they need to talk about.
Exactly.
So being in retail, what are the core metrics that you as well as your buyer kind of look at in order to make sure that you're tracking, to the sales plan or to the goals of your brand in store?
I mean, the number one metric that every brand probably talks about is velocity and velocity per SKU, units per store per week. All of those are the same, as well as which SKUs and locations. This is what I care more about, actually. I don't know if our buyers care as much, but I do think it's really interesting to look at individual geographical data, because if you look at the full picture and the averages across units per store per week, it might average out at a certain number. But if you look at maybe the middle, like middle America, for example, they're pushing maybe triple the amount and they're bringing that average up. And it's like, okay, if we know some of this information on where consumers are like very densely populated, does that mean that we can double down in this area? Does that mean we could host a SEEK event in the future there and like have people that like the brand or that are open to trying clear protein because they've clearly shown interest? So I see it from more of a marketing lens, but high level units per store per week is the number one metric that we measure in retail.
As you're in Target, then another retailer kind of comes to light in your portfolio of retailers. How did you know you were ready for that next step into another retailer?
Thankfully, we've invested into incredible team members to identify where the next opportunity lies and when we are ready for it based off of finances and inventory demand planning. And so we did a huge investment last year on just team alone and bringing in full-time CFO, full-time operations, full-time VP of sales to be able to work with us on what this picture looks like and what's feasible for this phase of growth. And I'd say that's the biggest. I said it earlier too, when it comes to being a founder or an operator, it's really key to know your areas of strength and where you can't hire for, and what your zone of genius is, and what you need to build around you to have foresight into where you're going. And so thankfully, we have amazing people on our team to help answer those questions, because I don't think I could answer them myself.
Was any of the data that you were talking about, even in regards to regionality, important as you were making decisions on what your retail landscape needs to look like?
For us, we know that for us to hit the goals that we have, we need to be in mass, and knowing too so deeply about our customer that who is drinking protein doesn't necessarily change per region. And it's important for us to just go wide with certain retailers and lean in as much as we can to prove that out. So for us, we didn't necessarily use the data to make any decisions from that perspective. The retailers have a lot of data on their end as well, and they want to see you win. They don't want to see you lose. That's why they're wanting to work with you. And like with Walmart, for example, we started in only 200 doors in California and Texas. And they have this playbook that has worked for other brands in the past, and why they chose those states has a lot of reasons to do with the data that they present. And then from there, we continue to scale up. Versus Target, we decided to go all in nationwide, and they saw the opportunity for that. And they had reasons to believe that we would be successful going wide in that. So it really depends on where you're at, what stage of business, what your product is, where your consumers are. Like if you're a vegan brand, maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense for you to start and do a whole nationwide play. Maybe it makes more sense to do the coasts on West Coast and East Coast, because more vegans live and are, expressing themselves in their communities in those regions versus in South Dakota, like where I'm from. You maybe will find 2 vegan restaurants in the whole state. You know what I mean?
Maybe not a good place to start.
Exactly.
What does your team look like today? How many people actually work for SEEK?
So we have 13 full-time employees, including me and my co-founder. We early on in the business brought in first a president, and we eventually promoted him to CEO in the last couple of years. And that was really important for us at that time as well, because we knew where this business was going. We had done 3 million in our first year, and I believe 14 in our second year. And in the middle of that second year, we had surrounded ourselves with other just mentors that we could tap for a coffee and pick their brain a little bit. And one of our mentors around us had said, you are at a point in your business where, like, if you really see this being $100 million brand, this is the inflection point at which you should bring in an operator and a president. And it was very crystal clear to us the value that that could bring us. And we're like, we absolutely should do that. And so we brought in a CEO, president, promoted CEO just a year and a half or so as we were building the business. And then from this last year, that's when we really started to invest into a really strong leadership team. And now this year, continuing to add on some more leadership within marketing is really important to us as we continue to scale into retail, especially, and then building that team underneath. So this year, I think we'll end off at around maybe 14 employees total and keeping it that way potentially who knows how long. Things change, in a week from now. I could say a completely different answer, but with the new information that's presented to us. But ultimately, yeah, we have 13 full time right now. And yeah, just really, it's amazing when you're a founder and you have this vision of a business and like where it could go. And to now have people who also believe in that, I'm like, wow, that's so freaking cool that we have
Yeah.
people who also see this and like really want to ride or die for this brand.
Yeah. I think too, I mean, that time, like you said, that you were out of stock and really took the time to build the business and the brand and the vision just gives people clarity into the direction. Like they can see what you have envisioned and your goals for the brand in a really clear way.
Exactly.
So, how do you and your co founder split responsibilities? Who manages what part of the business in their zone of genius that you talked about?
Yeah. So when we had first got started in the business, it was very clear because it was just me and Ben, and that was it. We hired his younger brother and sister to pack orders and stuff. And so at the very beginning, it was very much Ben is the content creator. He is the face of the brand. And I was very traditional marketing of, getting the website, doing the emails, doing anything as far as touch points go within our consumers online, as well as kind of both of us taking on inventory planning and finances and bringing in the right, even fractional support for accounting to make sure we weren't, you know, trying to slice and dice anything that we didn't know when it comes to the numbers of actual money being brought into the business. And that's evolved over time where I still basically up until this point, we're about to hire, she's about to start onboarding actually in the next couple of weeks, a VP of marketing. And this is kind of the first point for me as a founder to really allow her to take the reins and to run with the vision and everything that we've created and support her in that. And I have to let go of the thing that I've been working on. And it's really exciting because it allows my role to mature to see more of the bird's eye view of things, as well as being more involved in like board meetings now that we raised this last year and we have consistent people that are asking questions. So both me and Ben have always been involved deeply in product and innovation. That's where he is going to continue to develop his role, is going deep within product and owning that, as well as starting to get back to his kind of early content creation days where that's taken definitely a step back
Backseat.
on. Yeah. So I'm really excited for him to step into that role and feel passionate about what's happening there. And for me, it's very similar in the founder role sense of building my personal brand, having more opportunities to speak about everything that we've built to you and to other people and panels and wherever that leads me, as well as being the support to the team from a more supportive angle, which is very new to me. So the roles of being a founder, it's very interesting to see the roller coaster of it all, especially when you are graduating and giving the reins to other people. And to really scale something, you have to, you don't want to be the bottleneck to the growth of your business. And depending on where you're at in your business, understanding the value that you bring and knowing that the business would not be here today without the value that you had brought up until this point as well. And that's been a whole new reflection for me to really sit with and navigate where I'm going with all of it. It's like my baby's going off to college in some sense. And I'm like, I'm a struggling parent trying to figure that out.
Right. You don't want to let it all go.
Yeah, of course.
But it's great that you see that, you do need to rise to that next level as you continue to build the brand in a bigger and stronger way. So
Yeah.
there has been a lot of competition now in the space of clear protein. How do you continue to focus and grow without having distraction from what that represents?
Yeah, I think it's so easy to look at what everyone else is doing. And like when you're looking at what everyone else is doing, you're taking so much energy away from what you could be doing. And we started this business off of, a lot of intuition at the end of the day. It's a lot of intuition and just like pure belief and passion. And I say it's okay to put them on a vision board, let's say, of all these different people and mark what are they doing well, but like don't get lost on everything that you've already built. Don't get lost on everything that you know. And it's so easy to stay and be like, "Oh my gosh, but look, this this brand just came out with a clear protein. Like, if I did that literally every single day, I probably would have a new notification of what clear protein brand is coming out.
Mhm.
And it's just a big distraction to everything that we've built. Like, we are very clear about where we're going. We have the right people around us to get to where we're going. And it's okay to, peek under the window a little bit, but like, if you get all lost in the sauce, like, then all of a sudden you're on a whole new island and you're like, oh wait, but I forgot about to mow my grass on this island. It's important to look and to observe what's trending and what people are being receptive of, but it's not worth changing 180 degrees of everything that you've already built. I also think about how many people have talked about Seek in their boardroom discussions and had us to look at to think of how they're going to grow this business. So we need to continue to view ourselves as the leader of this category and know that a lot of these other brands that are coming out with clear protein also have a bunch of other products. And we want to continue to be the leaders of this space, growing in not only product and innovation, but also in marketing and doing things differently where no other brand is in our space is doing some of the stuff that we're doing. So it's important to a certain degree, but don't forget who you are.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure. And so many presentations, Seek is on there.
I hope so.
I'm
I dream of
sure.
that. I dream of that.
So, what is next for Seek?
Oh my gosh, so much is next for Seek. I'm so excited for this fall in Target specifically. We'll be launching our first net new product. It's I'm going to tease it here. It's going to be a plus line of clear protein. So it's going to be clear protein with functional benefits outside of just protein alone. So we still want to be anchored in clear protein and that's really important to us. But how can we also follow what people are already consuming? And can we make their health and wellness routines and habits a lot more simplified through these new products that we're launching? So we'll have 2 new products that release into Target this fall. And that's something we've been working on now for it feels like 2 years. So to finally have it come to fruition and be able to purchase it is personally, I'm really excited because I know I'm going to be a consumer of both of these products. And when it fits, again, when I'm the consumer, I get even more passionate about it. That's what's on the horizon for Seek, at least this year. There's a lot of new stuff too that's coming that I don't want to tease too far ahead, but just know that we always have a few tricks and things up our sleeves.
That's great. And also just having like a plus line, I think is just important at this time because consumers are looking for how can I get multiple benefits in my product? So definitely makes sense. So where can our listeners continue to follow the journey as well as, of course, buy Seek?
Yes, you can follow the journey on our brand page on Instagram, Seek Supply, SEEQ, as well as myself, HANX Perez. I post a lot of behind the scenes of what we're building, and it's been quite the journey to continue to speak on. And then shop in store. Find us at Target, find us at Sam's Club, Walmart, Vitamin Shoppe, wherever is easiest for you. But really excited to get some new stuff in the market, as well as our single serves. That's a big one that I think listeners care more about, as well as just the overall public, is being able to just pick a single flavor up and try one time. So that's coming soon this summer.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hannah, for coming on and sharing your journey.
Of course. Thanks, Roberta.
Yeah.